What is up, Texas A&M Aggies fans? IndyCar Tim here with the Texas A&M Aggies Daily Blitz. It's a Friday night version of the daily. We'll call it the nightly blitz going into the weekend against Prairie View A&M. Texas A&M versus Prairie View A&M. Why? It's the second time in 6 seasons the Aggies have played the Panthers. And I guess that the Aggies like to keep the out-of-conference money within the system. If you want to say that, of course, part of the Texas A&M University system. Keep the money there. Keep it coming in. So this isn't one of the bigger games on the A&M schedule. And the Aggies aren't necessarily playing for much. And it should be somewhat of a snoozer. But let's make things interesting and exciting for you. And give you some things to pay attention to and look at. Maybe things to watch for if you're going to watch A&M and Prairie View on Saturday. Keep in mind the Prairie View A&M Panthers are not a pushover team. They're 7-2. They're 6-1 in the SWAC. Of course, the Aggies 7-3, 4-3 in the SEC. But this Prairie View team's got a little something, okay? It's not going to be a snoozer. I don't think it's even going to be a blowout. There's a couple of reasons why. Before we get to that, though, let's talk about the game, what we can pay attention to for the Aggies, what we need to look for after the disappointing loss to Ole Miss that we're still reeling from. So many things we could say about that Ole Miss game, but you know, at some point we just got to move on, right? So part of the problem against Ole Miss is one of the things we want to watch for on Saturday, 11 a.m., SEC Network, is the offensive woes of the Aggies. And we've been talking about this since the season started, even against Kent State when Haynes King was still under center. The offense just hasn't clicked this season. And we hate to blame everything on Zach Calzada, because certainly it's not all his fault. We hate to blame everything on the offensive line. The offensive line has played better in recent weeks, but man, early on it was just a shit show of epic proportions with injuries, with freshmen, with Kenyon Green really being the only experience. Kids played every single position on the offensive line this season. So one of the things that we need to look for as Aggies fans is how that offense is performing against Prairie View A&M. You know, you'd like to see more than a touchdown or two, I think, offensively. But let's just see how Calzada, number one, if he's healthy enough. Again, we're going to get into this a little bit, but we're going to be looking for some substitutions during the game. A lot of guys are going to get some playing time. But don't know how much Calzada will play, probably, you know, until the game's well in hand, you would think. And then walk on. Blake Boast can certainly handle things from there on out. But let's pay attention to the offense, how they move the ball, how they run the ball, how that offensive line supports the quarterback, whoever it is back there. And see, just see if they look good. They should look good against an opponent like Prairie View A&M. But we'll see. Something to watch for, certainly. How about the defense? Defense did not have the best game against Ole Miss. Didn't have the worst game, but they certainly could not stop the Ole Miss running game when it counted. So this, you know, defense at times has looked like the old, I'm old enough to remember, the late 80s, early 90s Wrecking Crew under R.C. Slocum. And, you know, at times, though, they've looked like not. You know, it's been crazy. And much like that late 80s, early 90s Wrecking Crew, this defense has to deal with an average offense, sometimes not even average. And that's really what held those teams back from national championships was the offense. So this week, you know, look for defensive coordinator Mike Elko to be mixing things up a little bit. He's got a lot to pay attention to going into this game. This is a very important game for the Aggies and for the defense and for Mike Elko, because he's going to have to give the youngsters some work for a couple of reasons. Number one, LSU's next week, not to look ahead. can't look ahead of Prairie View, but LSU's coming up, and as bad as that team's been, they've got a lot to play for next week. We'll get into that here in just a second too, but next year, if you want to look way ahead to 2022, Mike Elko is losing a ton of experience on defense. So he may be trying to evaluate these next couple of games to, what he's got in the chamber, so to speak, going in next season with some of these young guys. And this kind of leads us to maybe a bittersweet topic for a lot of guys, but of course, tomorrow is senior day, and for some guys, junior day, oddly enough. So we're going to say goodbye. Last game at Kyle Field for guys like Leon O'Neal, Keldrick Carper, Jaden Peavy, Michael Clemens. All those guys are gone. If you want to throw DeMarvin Leal in there, you can, because he's probably going to be a first-round pick in the draft. On the other side of the ball, Isiah Spiller, first-round draft talk in the NFL, so he may very well be gone. And so, especially on the defensive side of the ball, there's going to be a lot of stars leaving after this season. And a lot of guys trying to make a name for themselves and show the coaching staff they got a little something here. So, just pay attention to the players. There's a lot going on. And speaking of Isiah Spiller and Devon Achane, so Achane's not eligible for the draft until after next year. He's expected to be, especially should Spiller leave, he's expected to be the go-to back for 2022. And I think these last two games, he's going to be trying to show a little something. Maybe make everybody know his name going into the offseason, especially going into LSU for sure. He's going to want to make a splash, which he's done all year. He's been great all year. But he's been second fiddle to Isiah Spiller for sure. We know that going into the year, playoff talk, going into after the Alabama game, maybe there's still a chance, and there was. Lots of things had to happen. What the Aggies don't want, though, is an 8-4 season in Jimbo Fisher's fourth year at A&M. In his fourth season at Florida State, he was winning a national title. So an 8-4 season, which is where you'd be if you lose either to Prairie View or to LSU. What a huge disappointment that would be for fans, for alum, for the players, coaching staff, for the organization, for the program in general. That would be a huge step backwards. And, of course, there were lots of extenuating circumstances, but in a couple of years, nobody's going to remember those. We're just going to see the 8-4 record and think, what the crap was going on with Jimbo? We know that Thanksgiving weekend game against LSU, of course, again, the last game for a lot of Aggies players that we talked about. But for LSU, it's going to be emotional, too, because we know what's going on over there. Not only is it Coach O's last game there, but if they beat Louisiana Monroe tomorrow, which they should, they'll be 5-6, and they'll need one more game in order to be bowl eligible. And at this point, they don't care what bowl it is. They would be happy to play in any bowl, unlike the Aggies. So they're going to have a lot to play for against the Aggies. A good showing for Coach O as he's out the door, maybe trying to be bowl eligible. And then, of course, there's the side story. Of course, LSU's athletic director, Scott Woodward, who was the athletic director at A&M when Jimbo came here, has been recruiting for Jimbo, of course, at LSU, and he has said no. So there's that kind of that little story, that sidebar there between the two. But, yeah, lots of things to look for in the game tomorrow at Prairie View. Certainly worth watching, taking some notes maybe, and certainly worth looking at the defense, looking at the offense, looking at the running game. But by all means, we need to be looking at the players that are on the field for senior day, as many of them will be playing their last game at Kyle Field, and some of them the last game ever as an Aggie. Because if it's a close one at LSU, then a lot of those bench players aren't going to get a lot of playing time. But you hope that this game's well in hand at the half. I don't think so, but we hope it will be. And then the Aggies can get some of those bench players in. So, again, I'm not predicting a blowout. I would like to see it. I just want to see solid play on both sides of the ball. I think that's the best thing we can ask for is solid play on both sides of the ball, and then, of course, the W. And listen intensely to Coach Fisher's post-game press conference, and then on Monday when he does his weekly presser about some of the things he has to say about those boys for Senior Day. I'm IndyCar Tim. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Do it. So please subscribe to the channel. Please like the videos. Please comment on the videos. I do see them, and I reply to as many of them as I possibly can. And I would love to interact with you there. Find me on Twitter at IndyCar Tim. The show is at Aggies Daily. Reach out to me any possible way you can, IndyCar Tim, on Facebook, and I would love to interact with you and talk to you. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. We'll do a reaction video after the game tomorrow. Gig 'em Aggies, and we'll see you.